Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the Tartar Case. It's a story of mass torture, and for years, it was one of Azerbaijan's most painful and deeply hidden state secrets.
To really get a sense of the sheer brutality here, you just have to listen to this one chilling account from a survivor. This single sentence, it just captures the systematic horror at the very heart of this case.
Okay, so how does something this horrific even happen? And maybe more importantly, how is it kept under wraps for so long? To figure that out, we've got to go back to the events of 2017.
All right, so what is the Tartar Case exactly? Well, it all started in the Tartar district of Azerbaijan. That's where hundreds of soldiers and officers were suddenly rounded up, accused of being spies, and then subjected to just brutal interrogation methods to force them to confess.
And this is where it gets really telling. You have to look at the huge difference between the official government story and what actually happened. The state was claiming this massive espionage conspiracy. But the reality, which we now know from survivors and human rights groups, was a horrifying campaign of illegal detentions, systematic torture, forced confessions, and even multiple deaths in custody.
The human cost was just devastating. And while the final count is still debated, human rights defenders have confirmed that at least 11 servicemen were tortured to death.
These are the names of some of the men who paid the ultimate price. We're talking lieutenants, warrant officers, soldiers, every single one, a life just lost in this campaign of terror. According to an appeal sent to international organizations, these are just some of the victims whose deaths the state refused to even acknowledge for years, leaving their families not just with grief, but with this crushing silence.
And for 4 long years, this whole tragedy was completely hidden, not just from the world, but from the public in their own country.
So how'd they do it? The government officially classified the entire case as a state secret, and that move created a total information blackout. Mainstream media couldn't touch it, and any kind of public discussion was just crushed. So that begs a pretty big question, right? If the whole story is a state secret, locked down tight, how on earth did the world find out? Well, the truth definitely didn't come from any official channels. Nope. It came from a small group of really determined activists and, believe it or not, an online TV channel that was operating from exile. This channel, Azerbaijani TV, broadcasting on platforms like YouTube, became an absolute lifeline for the truth. It gave survivors a platform where they could speak openly and, more importantly, safely. They could share their horrific stories directly with the public, completely bypassing the state's censorship. It's just a powerful example of how exile media can really challenge an authoritarian government's grip on information.
This whole journey from total secrecy to public exposure took years. The torture started back in May 2017, but it wasn't until late 2021 that the government finally, officially admitted it happened. And the clear turning point? That was March 2021. That's when those survivor testimonies on Azerbaijani TV just created this huge wave of public awareness that the state literally couldn't ignore anymore.
But here's the thing. Exposing the truth is one battle. Actually getting justice, that's a whole other fight. And for the victims of the Tartar case, that search is far from over. So even though the numbers were suppressed at first, new investigations have now officially identified over 405 victims of torture. Just let that sink in for a second. More than 400 people.
And what's just a massive source of pain for the victims is this profound sense of impunity. Instead of being punished, many of the senior officials and officers who were named in survivor testimonies were later promoted. They were given state medals. For the victims, this wasn't just a failure of justice. It felt like the state was actively rewarding the very people responsible for their suffering.
And that brings us to the standoff we see today. On one side, the government has taken some steps. They've launched a new investigation and some low-level guys have been arrested. But for the victims, that's nowhere near enough. They're demanding a full, independent truth commission. They want accountability for the high-level commanders who gave the orders. And they want a formal state apology. There's still this huge gap between what's been offered and what real justice looks like.
And that really leaves us with a tough question to think about. For the survivors of the Tartar case and for their families, the fight for justice continues. The truth is out in the open now, but the search for what that truth actually demands, real accountability, that remains a long, ongoing struggle.